Inspired by the book Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer, I wanted to dive deeper into the highly controversial topic of American factory farming and the ramifications it has caused for many different parties. Factory farming is defined as a system of rearing livestock using intensive methods by which poultry, pigs, or cattle are confined indoors under strictly controlled conditions. These three phrases used in the definition can tell you right off the bat that there's no way this method of farming can be ethical. In my project, I am proposing that modern-day agriculture is harmful for human health, animal welfare, and the overall environment. Factory farming is a practice that confines animals so tightly that they cannot move or turn around in order to maximize profits for the producers. These clips show only a small amount of the effects this can have on the animals, such as open wounds, pressure sores, infections, and bleeding gums from biting the bars of their crate. The worst part about factory farming is that, according to the Sentience Institute, over 99% of U.S. farmed animals live in these conditions. If you've ever wondered where your turkey on Thanksgiving or hot dog on the 4th of July came from, it's most likely an intense factory farm. One of the more famous and recent investigations having to do with the abuse of factory farmed animals is when Fairlife Dairy was under fire for their workers abusing the cows. The incident occurred at Fair Oaks Farms in Indiana, one of the country's largest dairy operations, with an estimate of housing over 370,000 cows. According to ABC Today, the viral video showed Fair Oaks workers punching adult cows, hitting them with metal poles, and allegedly breaking the tails of some cows which did not cooperate with employees. In a TED Talk by J.C. Reese, a researcher at the Sentience Institute, he urges us to realize how badly factory-farmed animals are treated. He also warns us of not only the effects these farms have on animals, but on humans as well.
There are over 100 billion animals in the global food system. Many of them are confined in tiny cages, barely larger than their own bodies. Their beaks and tails are cut off without anesthetic. They suffer day and night from infectious diseases and intense artificial selection that has them growing so much meat that they collapse under their own weight.
Speaking of diseases, this huge problem is discussed in Eating Animals as well. Foer writes, each case of foodborne illness cannot be traced, but where we do know the origin or the vehicle of transmission, it is overwhelmingly an animal product. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, poultry is by far the largest cause. According to a study published in Consumer Reports, 83% of all chicken meat, including organic and antibiotic-free brands, is infected with either Campylobacter or Salmonella at the time of purchase. So, chickens and other poultry can cause food poisoning. You may be whatever about this since most of us already know. However, an even worse problem stems from not poultry, but hogs that most did not know of before. Foer writes, today the factory farm pandemic link couldn't be more lucid. The primary ancestor of the recent H1N1 swine flu outbreak originated at a hog factory farm in America's most hog factory-rich state, North Carolina, and then quickly spread throughout the Americas. It was in these factory farms that scientists saw, for the first time, viruses that combined genetic material from bird, pig, and human viruses. Scientists at Columbia and Princeton universities have actually been able to trace 6 of the 8 genetic segments of the currently most feared virus in the world directly to U.S. factory farms. This research is quite shocking at first, but after researching quite a bit into the conditions of the factory animals and the sicknesses they must suffer through alone behind iron bars, it's no surprise that these animals have concocted one of the deadliest of human diseases. Not only does this type of farming create toxic sicknesses, but also gives rural Americans and neighbors of these factories lots of problems as well.
North Carolina is one of the largest livestock producing states in the nation.
Some folks in North Carolina claim a food company is dumping waste right on their doorsteps.
When the industry first came in, they hid these facilities behind trees. You didn't know they existed, but you smelt something.
You're looking at a lake of toxic pig feces and urine.
Remember that lagoon is like a football field size, toilet essentially, that's never flushed.
After reading Eating Animals and conducting extended research for this project, I've come to the conclusion that my proposal is correct, that modern-day agriculture is harmful for human health, animal welfare, and the overall environment. This is obviously a problem, and I have come up with a couple of solutions. These include reducing your consumption of meat and dairy and supporting local farms that raise their animals humanely and in sanitary conditions. The most extreme form of reducing this problem would be to adopt a vegan diet, which is a very hard thing to do in this factory farm-dominated society. However, if you decide to go the vegan route, there is a ton of scientific evidence to back you up. In the documentary What the Health, filmmaker Kip Anderson exposes the collusion and corruption in government and big business that is costing us trillions of healthcare dollars and keeping us sick. He also proposes that a vegan diet can quite possibly reverse chronic diseases.
The diabetes, the arthritis, the heart disease, the dementia, the obesity, the cancers are affecting about 70% of deaths.
We have an epidemic cascade of debilitating disease that's overcoming the country.
18% of children are morbidly obese right now. We're on par to have 1 in 3 people be diabetic in the next 25 years. That's crazy statistics.
Have this very dangerous situation.
Large amounts of these substances have unquestionably been associated with clogged arteries, high blood pressure, diabetes, autoimmune diseases. Absolutely, the science is solid.